Well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. How's it going, everybody? How's it going? We've got James, we've got Tara, we've got McQuinn, we've got Mario, we've got Sovanch. McQuinn, sick name. Dahara, Danab. I'm listening. Hey, Daniel, how's it going, man? Hey, Alex, good morning, man. We've got Stefan here, Kia, Markian. I'm good, man. I'm okay. Thank you for asking. I've got my Finance Bro quarter zip on. I am going to get up and turn the AC on in a second. James, you're right about that. I'm good, Daniel. Thanks for asking, man. I hope you're well as well. Hey, Alex, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Hey, that's an interesting name. Sverre. Hope I pronounced that properly. Hey, Kaim, how's it going, man? Yeah, good evening. What's the time for you guys? What time zones are you all in? Oh, yeah, that's a hard take right there. I don't think it doesn't get much better than that, Alex. Do you know, I listened to a Flume interview and he said that Numb and Getting Colder is actually one of his best ever productions. He was like one of the productions that he's proudest of. It's 5 p.m., 11 a.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Hey, Ethan, how's it going, man? 5 p.m. in France. Well, it's 4 p.m. here in the UK, and we've got an hour or two to go through and answer a bunch of questions. So I'm excited to get in there and help you guys with anything that you need help with. Because you guys are all on time and early, I'll spend the first couple of minutes here getting into some YouTube questions to reward your promptness. So before we get into the school questions, let's have a look at this. Antonella says, what's the best way to make 10 million in 2026 online? It's probably to spend 7 years building infrastructure first. I don't think it could be, but I don't think it's necessarily feasible or possible with someone with no experience to make $10 million. But the best way to probably do it is to build an AI agency to 7 figures and then teach other people how to build AI agencies to 6 figures. That's probably the meta at the moment. If you want me to tell you what the next sort of 8-figure trend is going to be, then it's most likely to be that. But yeah, there's no best way or best business model. It's just standard good business practice with insane products, great offers, great team, and great infrastructure. But probably a high ticket info business, or maybe a low ticket school community. That seems to be working quite well. Charlie, would you visit Dubai again? I probably wouldn't come back. I don't think I'd necessarily be particularly welcome because of the video that I made. But I'd like to come back at some point, of course. Marcus says, how do you learn AI? Yeah, well, if I wanted to learn AI, I would basically what I would do. The thing about AI is you only really want to, if you want to learn AI, you'd need to study information that's been released in the last probably 12 months. Because anything sort of written, you could read the first principles of it and stuff and read the sort of books that came out on it like 5 to 10 years ago. But really, if you want to learn the practical stuff, all you'd have to do is get ChatGPT to make a list of every single video on AI made in the last 12 months with more than 1,000 views, and then just watch them all. That's what I would do if I wanted to learn and understand AI, which I'm probably going to have to do at some point. So yeah. Let's see here. Should my website have prices if there's tiers or no? Not marketing or AI agency. If you're selling information or consulting or any sort of service, then no. Unless they can actually like if it's low ticket enough for them to purchase online, then it makes sense. But if the sale isn't, if the website isn't the point of sale, the price should only be delivered at the point of sale. And so if the point of sale is a sales call, then the price should be delivered on the sales call. If the point of sale is a website or a store, then the price should be on there. How do I know when to call someone back after a cold call based on the reason they gave for not moving forward? I'm not sure I understand this question, Louis. There's not really enough context here, mate. There's no like, I don't know. I actually can't answer that question. There's not enough context attached to it. How do I know when to call someone back after a cold call based on the reason they gave me for not going forward? I don't know. Sorry. Antonella's asking some good questions. What's the difference between people who hit 30K a month and people who jump to 300K a month? Is it mindset, systems, or offer? It's really two things. It's really like the volume of appointments. So it's basically their mindset and approach to booking appointments. And it's also their ability to trust other people to do a better job than them in delivery. Because really, like, you know, it's pretty much just a question of getting more appointments and keeping results consistent. And so the difference between someone who makes 30K a month and someone who makes 300K a month in the same niche with the same offer is the person who makes 300K a month has 10 times the appointments and can handle 10 times the clients without their infrastructure breaking. So scale is just about appointment volume and infrastructure, which is basically just talent and automation. That's the difference. There's no real difference other than that. People who join our mastermind, a lot of people join the mastermind, High Ticket Heaven, and they'll be making 30K a month or 40K a month, and they want to get to like 200, 300K a month. And honestly, like one of the first things we do is we just say like, go and hire 10 cold callers, or go and make like a YouTube video every day, or figure out how to hire 10 appointment setters, you know, or go and suddenly start spending 20K a month on ads. Like it really is just, you have to start thinking a bit more aggressively. Like we had this mastermind client today who literally is making like 30K a month. And I did a call with him, and he wants to make 200K a month, and he wants to get to 100K a month first. And he's booking like 60 calls a month, doing all the cold calls himself. And I said, okay, dude, just go and hire 6 cold callers. And he was like, yeah, I should probably just go and do that because then I'll have more appointments. And I was like, yeah, that's the thing. That's the only difference between someone who's stuck at 30 and someone who hits 300. It's just the volume of appointments and what they're willing to do to make that happen. People just don't think big enough, basically. Louis, you extended your question here. How do I know when to call someone back after a cold call, depending on what they told me? Busy, fully booked, already working with someone. Well, if they're fully booked, like as in they don't need your help, then there's no point in calling them back because there's no pain to leverage into a sale. If they're already working with someone, my favorite objection handle, if I'm cold calling someone, they say we've already got a vendor, I say, I know every good goal has a keeper, right? And then they'll laugh, and then you'll say, look, all I'm asking for is the opportunity to audit your current process and see if there's anything that we could do differently to increase your results. I can do that for you completely for free. It won't cost you anything. I won't slate your provider or your decision to work with them. I just want to see if it's an easy way for me to, you know, add value. We can do it on a call. It'll cost you nothing. And I promise, if you hate me afterwards, I'll never talk to you again. You make a joke out of it, you pitch it like that, they'll be like, fine, whatever, no worries. And then they'll book a sales call. And then basically the sales call is just you doing the sales call. It's just discovery questions, building pain, finding out what their current vendor's doing wrong, and then digging that in with a screwdriver verbally, obviously. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We got Mr. Matt Perry. Good to see you again, mate. What's your fastest testimonial? I don't know. Let's have a look, shall we? Let's have a look. Can you guys see the screen here? What's our fastest testimonial? Lucas is our biggest public testimonial, from 0 to 560K a month in 24 months. But the fast ones, like going to 10K a month, Austin did it real quick. He went from 0 to 10K a month in 3 months. Ole, I actually think Ole might have been the fastest one with Easy Grow 0 to 10K a month in 2 months. No, it was Thibaut Marty. Yeah, it's Thibaut Marty. No, he's a mastermind client now. He's doing like I don't know 50K a month now or something. Thibaut Marty was he's like our fastest 6-figure student from Easy Grow specifically. The biggest testimonial, like the really big testimonials that we have, they're not actually on our website because the big clients, the ones that make like 8 figures, don't necessarily want to be scrutinized, so to speak. So why is this not working now? What the fuck? Oh, I see. Need to go here and then here. Yeah. So we had a guy who sold his agency for like multi-7 figures, but he didn't want us to tell anyone because it was NDA'd, so we can't. But either way, we've got enough testimonials. Antonella is asking some fantastic questions. I don't know, Antonella, if this is you or ChatGPT, but either way, I'm quite impressed. What's the one system you built that gave you the biggest freedom? And how to begin to replicate a small version of it? Whew! That's a brilliant question. Well, the biggest so the way to look at this is the biggest freedom leverage in your business depends on what takes the most time away from you. And so the thing that made me the most free would have been hiring a sales rep. And because like I got to the point where I got so good at booking appointments that basically my entire life was just sales calls, and I couldn't really progress or scale my business until I got off those sales calls and sort of completed them basically. So the one system that gave me the biggest freedom was hiring my first sales rep and building my sales team. But I'm just trying to think of like a smaller version for sort of a more beginner friendly sort of thing that gives you freedom. Honestly, probably cutting a lot of sacrificing things and cutting lots of things away, like getting rid of bad friends. Like this isn't really a system, but getting rid of bad friends, getting rid of like all my like clothes and just wearing the same thing, like eating the same thing, like that gives you a lot of freedom because it gives you a lot of time back. And you know, you can't really be sovereign unless you've got time to actually know what you want and what to do. So probably that. Yeah. What's the highest ROI decision you've ever made in your business? Probably partnering with Bo, my business partner. But the highest, technically, by a technicality, there's 2 high ROI decisions that I've made. The first was to start my YouTube channel, and the second was to run ads. Nothing has been higher ROI than that. Really, there's probably 3. The decision to do YouTube, the decision to do ads, and the decision to make a really good product. Adam says, after watching the mindset section, I can't understand how people live without knowing that information. Yeah, man, it's like a rebirth. I feel like that's a good way to describe week 2. It's just like you're born as a kid and then you discover the mindset module and you're kind of born again. it kind of respawns you in. Louis says, thank you for your motivational talk to break out of perfectionism. You're welcome, man. This is a question from Primalone on client acquisition. Rather than doing cold calls, what if you went inside of businesses like cafes when going outside? I'm a videographer, so I can't work with people outside my city. You can definitely go in, but the problem with going in is it's incredibly unlikely that the owner of the business is actually there. So the better thing to do is you call them up and you say, hey, I'm actually going to be in the area. Can I come and meet you and discuss this thing with you? And then you set the appointment. You should do your sales call in person if you can, for sure. Like if you have the option to do the sales call in person, you absolutely should. But actually going in and just door knocking on businesses doesn't make sense because there's not enough businesses for you to officially knock on. If you were doing B2C and selling to consumers and knocking on houses, because of the way that cities are laid out, you can just knock on a door every minute. But it wouldn't be efficient to do that, in my opinion, with a B2B offer. Matt says, should I be doing any outreach before/while doing week 4? In the first video, you said I should not watch until I have a few appointments underway. Yeah, you can start doing it now. I mean, look, the week 5 is obviously designed to help you with appointment booking, and week 4 is designed to help you with sales. But if you've got an inkling as to how to do outreach and you can start doing a little bit of it, then there's no harm in doing so. So yeah. We've got Antonella again with another great question. These are critical. I like these. When you look back at your journey, what's a decision that seemed small at the time, but ended up changing everything for you? Again, this would be starting the YouTube channel, like starting the personal brand. Like, guys, imagine me without the personal brand. Like, actually just take a second to imagine and think about that. Like, the academy wouldn't be filling up. Like, the mastermind wouldn't really have much appeal. Like, the personal brand was definitely the decision. It seems so small. Like, I'm just going to make some YouTube videos and just try and get some appointments. That was definitely the big sort of needle moving thing. Another decision that seemed small at the time. It's a really good question. Probably going through Sam Ovens Consulting Accelerator. I'm not sure, but yeah. Do you go over personal branding in the course? No, I don't, because it's like in the beginning, like when you're a brand new beginner with no previous experience, like like a personal brand can be helpful, but outreach tends to have higher leverage. So we cover personal branding in Easy Grow a lot, but not so much in Academy, because it's just not as it's not as high leverage, because there's not really much point in creating a personal brand until you've got at least a client or two, because like, what are you going to talk about? And when I say personal brand, I mean niche specific personal brand with intent from the people who can actually buy from you. And if you haven't got any of those as clients and you haven't done any sales calls, you've got no experience, there's nothing to even talk about, and your content won't, honestly, it'll probably do more harm than good. What's the worst decision you've ever made in your business? One of the worst decisions I made was basically having one product for far too long. So like, for example, what we basically did for 2 years is launch Easy Grow, and we kept adding to Easy Grow. So we kept it the same price, same avatar, and we would just basically sell it to everyone, but we kept improving it. What we should have done is separate Easy Grow and build another program and another. We should have basically had upsells way sooner. So now we've got Acquisition Nirvana and High Ticket Heaven. But dude, I probably put 3,000 people, honestly, 3,000 people went through Easy Grow and got insane results, and I didn't have anything to sell them afterwards. It was, honestly, it's probably that decision alone, not doing that, has probably cost me $10 to $15 million, if not more. Like, not having the mastermind, not having the next step of Nirvana, like that shit probably cost me an awful lot. The other decision that I regret quite a lot was the moving to Dubai and worrying about tax and trying to be greedy with how much money I keep. I regret that because it made me play defense, and it encouraged me to not take risks, and it kind of killed my entrepreneurial spirit, so to speak. Really good question though, man. Tarab says, how do you keep quality high when you add more clients without increasing your workload? Well, there's a few reasons. There's a few ways to do this. The first thing is basically like, you're going to, like, you can't really keep high quality without and add more clients to that system without an increase in workload. But the key question here, the key word you've put in here is the word your. It doesn't have to be your workload. It can be somebody else's workload. And so the way that you keep quality high whilst being able to add more clients without increasing your workload is by hiring people to do the work for you. But you only need to do that, you only want to do that when you are at your personal capacity for business results. So once you're like at your absolute limit, and every time you basically, the tipping point is as soon as you take on another client, the experience for every other client gets worse. So when you've hit your sort of capacity, that's when you need to hire someone. I'm gonna make a note of that. The tipping point, the delivery. It's like a delivery tipping point. You can handle maybe like 10 clients, but as soon as you sign 11, all 10 of them have like a way worse experience because you're overstretched. This happens with a lot of agencies. And honestly, once that happens, you're way, way, way better off just buying Acquisition Nirvana and transitioning to the info model than you are trying to build a team around delivery. Antonella, again, with a fucking good question. Is there anything in the business world right now that you think is overhyped, but nobody wants to admit? Yeah, the biggest thing that's overhyped for sure is the AI trend. Like right now, everyone's like obsessed with AI and adding AI as their unique selling point. But the truth is that like it won't be that way for long, because AI will eventually be integrated with everything and everyone's businesses, and it will just be a given that everything contains artificial intelligence. So what's happening right now is a lot of businesses are relying on the idea of AI as their unique selling point, and they're building their business around being an AI driven business. But that's like being a restaurant when electricity was discovered and building your restaurant around having lights. Like eventually every restaurant is going to have lights, and eventually everyone in the same space as you is going to have that advantage. So you're just basically kicking up a nightmare. So probably that's a big thing that's overhyped at the moment. Off topic, tell us a story of when you had to flex on someone to shut them up. I don't really ever feel much of a need to shut people up, man. The great thing about if someone's ranting at you and someone's having a go at you, like it's within your response to that is within your control. And I think that using status or financial resource to discourage someone from speaking their truth is probably not the most mature thing that you can do as an adult. There was a funny time when I was at I didn't flex, but I was at this party. I was making 500K a month, and I was at this like college sort of university party that my friend invited me to. And at this party, it was a university party, right? And there was a guy there who was in finance, and I think he was making like 60K a year. So he was making 5K a month. And to everyone at the party, that was huge. This guy, he's like 22 years old. He's in finance. He's making 60K a year, and he's like ranting off about how much money he makes. And he was kind of flexing on everyone, and he was kind of taking the piss. And like, I didn't tell him I was making 500K a month, right? So I was kind of watching this guy, and all these girls were like hanging around him, and he was like, and he kind of shouted across the room at me, and my friend. My friend didn't work with me, but he was like, he didn't say I bet I make more money than you guys, but he was like, oh, what's it like being broke students? And I was this close. I was this close to pulling up Stripe and being like, yeah, mate, I make 100 times what you made this month. But I didn't, because I just don't think there would have been that much social efficacy in doing that. I think that would have been a little immature. Don't get me wrong. I when I went home that night, I thought about doing that for like ages. I was like, oh, I wish I did that. But now that I kind of get to sit like here and say that I didn't, it makes me feel a little bit better about myself. Like that would have been a short-term thinking thing. And my friend knew how much money I made, so we just kind of laughed at this guy, and yeah, he ended up just being a little bit bitter. But he was one of those typical sort of like, finance bros that just thought he was the shit. And honestly, to everybody else, he was. He was making 60K a year, running his mouth, whilst everyone else was a broke student. He was ordering all these drinks and stuff. And yeah. Would you recommend going through Consulting Accelerator at this point? No, probably not, man, because Imperium Academy is basically Consulting Accelerator on absolute fucking steroids. So I don't think there'll be much in there that the Consulting Accelerator is one of the greatest BizOp courses ever made. And, I modeled that closely, but just made it basically, in my opinion, 10 times better. But that's because I had so much time on my hands. So Ivan said, if you were starting from zero today with no experience or skills, what would your first 90 days look like? I would pick a niche that I could cold call, and my first 90 days would look like 12 hours a day of cold calling. Because the cool thing about cold calling is it teaches you sales whilst also teaching you appointment booking. So I would pick a niche personally that would be like a business to business niche where I would formulate my niche selection around picking a niche that I could cold call, where I know that if I call, the owner picks up. This is why I crushed the gym niche. And this is exactly what I did, because I know that gyms, if you call them, the owner's there. If you call the roofers, the owner's there. If you call real estate agents, the owner's there. And so my first 90 days, I can tell you what my first 90 days of my agency looked like when I had no experience and had no skills. It would be wake up at 5 a.m., go to the gym, start cold calling at 7 a.m., finish cold calling at 7 p.m., and do sales calls in between when I booked them. That was it for like literally the first 365 days. And I sucked. Dude, I sucked. I didn't get my first client. It took me 60 sales calls to get my first client. I had no idea what I was doing. But then I got one, and then I was like, oh, I got two, and then I got three, and then I got four. But that would be my first 90 days. It's just and I remember I would call on Skype. So I remember that like Skype theme tune, it would go like ding 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 ding, and that shit played in my fucking dreams. Like that, the Skype ringtone thing, like it got bad because I just it sucked. But great question, Ivan. That's a really critical question, man. I think that was a really, really good question. Yeah, rip Skype, man. Microsoft just binned it off, man. Matty says, how do you fix your biorhythm after an event ruining your schedule for the night? You don't really need to fix anything, man. You just start going to bed early again. The only way to really fix your biorhythm or your circadian rhythm, like your sleeping pattern, is just wake up early for like 2 days, and then you'll be literally corrected. Like if I ever need to do this thing, like where I'm like waking up, if I want to wake up at 5 a.m. and build that into my routine, then all you've got to do is just set an alarm for 5 a.m., wake up at 5 a.m. for 3 days straight, and you'll be really tired for like 72 hours. But then what will happen by like the 4th day is you'll just get naturally tired at 9 p.m. Like it's really easy to fix your rhythms. Yeah. From Sahar here, is there any advice you'd give women in terms of that intimidation factor that men won't take me seriously? In your opinion, do you think they do or no? I really struggle with this. Well, I can understand why you struggle with that, but I think that, I mean, I can speak for men. I can't speak for women because I'm not a woman, and Lord knows I'll never figure out how they work. But I can tell you who men take seriously in business is people who are competent. And, like I've got a sales rep called Hannah. A lot of you might be familiar with him. She also does some assistant work for me. Hannah is a woman, as we know, and she's one of our best sales reps. And she's not intimidating. She's not frightening. She's not scary. Like, she's not intimidated by men, but she's just a really, really, really talented salesperson. And she really knows how to sell. She's really competent and she's really persuasive, and she's put lots of time and effort into her craft. And because of this, she doesn't feel intimidated by men or by anyone. She can talk to 80-year-old, multi-7-figure business owners and feel absolutely fine because she's just practiced. It's understandable that you struggle with this, but the only reason that you'd feel intimidated is because you perceive men as intimidating. And the only reason you perceive them as intimidating is perhaps because you're not as competent as you could be. If you were a, successful multi-millionaire, boss babe, then I would expect you probably wouldn't feel that intimidation that you feel now. And the only thing that will get you to the millionaire boss babe level is by working really hard and practicing in the same way that all men would have to do. So there's no real difference. And if anything, you have a massive advantage in business being a woman, because a lot of men, sadly but truthfully, underestimate women. and they'll underestimate you on sales calls. They'll underestimate you as competitors. And that gives you a massive advantage, because when someone underestimates you, if you're better than what they estimated, then they're not going to expect you sneaking up on them. So yeah. What's the worst, most crude rejection? Oh, where's that question? What's the worst, most crude rejection you've ever received over the phone? Dude, I remember like one of my first ever sales calls. One of my first ever cold calls, like my second day of cold calling, someone told me to fuck off and hang myself. I was like, I didn't cold call for like 5 days after that. Like I couldn't, like this guy was like, oh, like, you know, you should fucking like fuck off and go and hang yourself. And I was like, and like, obviously for me, this I'm just a little fucking 18-year-old kid who's just trying to like figure it all out, and then I'm being told to like that. And that was, I remember that really explicitly, and it really discouraged me. I was worried. I didn't make another cold call for like 4 or 5 days after that. I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this anymore. What did I say to him? No, he just hung up. He didn't even give me a chance to say anything. I just called him up. I was like, I didn't know how to cold call, right? So my cold calling script literally approximated to ringing business owners up and saying, hi, my name's Charlie Morgan. I'm calling from my company. And I want to do marketing for your gym. That was literally my script. Yeah, it didn't go that well for that guy specifically. I forgot about that as a little unlocked memory. Yeah. We can have a look at some of these school questions here. A very interesting critical question from Stefan being, what important truth do you believe in that almost no one agrees with you on? This is a hedge fund hiring question, I think, that Google invented or someone like that. If you're talking about like the average, like normal human, probably carnivore, the carnivore diet. And also, if we're talking about the normal average person, pretty much every single thing in the mindset module would be a big thing. From a business perspective, that's kind of hard because business owners tend to be a little bit more critical in the nature of their thinking. So, you know, that's a little harder to answer. Probably that literally anyone can be successful if they have access to the right information and they want it enough. Because a lot of people think and say like, oh, 99% of businesses fail, 99% of people fail, no one's going to make it. But I don't believe that. Like, I think it's conditional on having the right information and the right psychological conditions. So from Iced here, you mentioned that price is presented at the end of the sales call, and once the prospect asks, I was wondering how to present the price of the same program has, let's say, different price points, normal, premium, highest tier, for example. Do I guide the prospect to, for example, premium, or lay out all the options? Well, it depends. You could basically, like, you will tell them what you will tell them the price of whatever tier that you think is the most appropriate for them to purchase. So you never lay out like, okay, this is a really, really critical point here. If you've got multiple price points on a sales call, what you do not want to do is lay out, just be like, okay, Mr. Prospect, well, the price can be this, 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 or this. Because as it is, you're asking them to make one decision, which is to work with you. If you ask them to make another decision, which is for them to pick which option to work with you on, then you give them what we call like multi-layered decision fatigue, where it's kind of like they're like they've now got to make two decisions, and it's already hard enough getting them to make one. And by virtue of them deciding which price point is best for them, they are deciding to work with you. And so it's too much of a commitment to ask which pricing option do you want to pick, and it will just paralyze them. Honestly, the best thing to probably do is only have one price and only sign one type of avatar at the beginning. Like you probably don't need normal, premium, and high tier. It depends entirely on what your services and stuff like that. But if you've been through a 30-minute discovery with someone, you should be able to place the tier to them, and they shouldn't be aware of the other tiers. It's usually a good idea to start at the higher tier, because then what you can do, if they can't afford that or have the financial resources, you can ladder down through the other tiers and start making these sort of concessions for them. It's like, oh, well, you can't afford that, but I really want to work with you and it's such a good fit. So what we could do is build a custom product for you where you spend this money instead, but get access to this instead. So that's kind of how it's structured. I know you said to pick one niche. I went med spa because I'm comfy calling women and I have one decent case study, but I thought of pursuing the home improvement long term. Should I stick with med spa now and expand later or switch? Just stick with med spas, honestly. You don't need to expand. You know, you don't just because you thought of pursuing home improvement, that doesn't mean it was a good idea or that you were right. Guys, a really important lesson here for all of you beginners is, and I mean this with love, most of you, and this isn't an attack on the person who asked the last question, your judgment is going to be wrong more often than it's going to be right. And so when you think something's a good idea, it's probably not a good idea. Does that make sense? Like a lot of people at the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey, they trust their judgment way too much. It's like you can't really rely on your gut decisions. You can't really rely on your judgment. You can't really rely on your critical thinking because fundamentally you haven't got any experience and you don't know anything. And so all you need to do is just, this is why the instructions in the program are so clear and so thorough. Just follow my judgment to begin with. And then once you've got some clients on board, you can start making your own calls. But generally speaking, if the program recommends against it, you shouldn't do it. So, you know. I use Asana and that's pretty much it. I noticed some guy called AJ went from 12K a month to 50K a month. AJ's a fucking legend, mate. My question is no question to you. I appreciate you too, man. AJ's always does this. He's one of our mastermind clients, and he did indeed go from 12K a month to 50K a month with EasyGrow. And I appreciate the plug, my friend. Clients that make your life easy. We love it. Why can't we change the mind of a fool? Probably because they're foolish, man. I don't know. Why are you asking this question, dude? Like, get back to work and focus on the business, man. Like, some of you guys have a habit of like asking questions to just ask questions, and it makes me wonder, like, why are you asking? Like the answer to that question of why can't we change the mind of the fool doesn't really give a scent or an indication to any critical information that's going to help you build an agency or get a client. So don't waste your energy, you know, focusing on, and this isn't anyone's fault. This is just, again, a lesson. Like, you don't really want to waste your energy asking questions or, you know, trying to seek information on anything that isn't going to give a scent to your goal. You know, ask questions that are critical and focused instead of just asking for the sake of asking, you know. It's like when people ask me the question like, Charlie, do you believe in God? It's like me answering that question isn't going to help you get more clients. Therefore, I don't answer it, you know. How do you ensure your client sees your loom or prospect sees your loom? Is it good to do a couple of loom outreaches with cold SMS? Yeah, I mean, look, I'd send it through email so that, you know, that's typically going to be the best delivery method. But then what I would also do is DM it to them on Instagram, send it to them on Facebook, connect with them on LinkedIn and send it there, call them and text them. Like, I would just attack them from every single possible angle, like everywhere. Omnipresent, comment on their Instagram posts, send it to their managers and employees. Like, you'll get it seen. Glenn says, do you prefer video on or off for a sales call? In the sales module, you said to turn the camera off. Will it affect trust? Well, the reason I say camera off for you guys at the beginning is because you've got enough to worry about besides being on camera. You know, like you're already nervous, you're already twitching around in your chair. Once you feel confident and comfortable doing sales calls, then you should definitely turn your video on. But at the very beginning, like you need to learn to work with silence. You need to learn to read their voice, their tone. If you feel confident, then video on is 100% going to be the way. But for most people at the beginning, they have absolutely no confidence. So just dealing with a voice tends to be easier than dealing with a human body. What should I listen to in the car? I would listen to your affirmations from week 2. Would you recommend meditating for 20 minutes a day or just work? I'd recommend meditating if you really struggle with focus. So if you're one of those people that just basically cannot focus, like getting a consistent meditation habit for like a year or 2 literally will just rewire your brain to be able to effectively focus. And I don't meditate anymore. I haven't done for quite a while, but that's because I can just work for like 12 hours a day and stay focused on something without having to like get distracted. I can lock in on like a Google Doc for like 6 hours and not come out of it. So for me, meditation, like there's more effectiveness now from me just working for that 20 minutes than meditating. Would you recommend partnering up with someone from the school community in the same niche as business partners, or do it when you're on your own? I would honestly, dude, I mean, it depends on what they're like and if you have complementary skill sets and stuff. You know, it could be the best partnership ever. It could be the worst partnership ever. It's not them by virtue of them being in this school community doesn't make them a good partner or not. What makes them a good partner is whether or not they have complementary skill sets and complementary goals and complementary values. So really there's 3 things that make a good business partnership. 1, do you want the same thing? Do you want to live the same sort of lifestyle? Do you have the same goal? 2 is, do you have the same values? So when you are taking actions and behaving and acting out your goal, are you doing that in the same way? Examples of values can be transparency and honesty, moving quickly and you know, moving with speed, putting clients before anything else. Things like working with lots of focus, or things like, you know, taking no bullshit. Like, do you have similar values, or can you at least find similar values? And then the third thing is complementary skill sets. So if you're both salespeople, then it doesn't make sense for you to partner. If you're both operators, it doesn't make sense for you to partner. If you're both heavily extroverted, it doesn't make sense. If you're both heavily introverted, it doesn't make sense. You need to be opposites. And that's difficult because usually a lot of people who make friends are friends with people similar to them, not opposites. And so most friends don't make good business partners for that reason. If I am a pain-seeking missile, wouldn't I want to not do the academy because it's just making it easier? I don't understand that question. With a full-time job, what's a reasonable time frame to get to 5K a month with this course? Probably like a year. I mean, it depends on how hard you work outside of your job, man. It depends on what level of business experience you already have. There's no like reasonable time frame. You know, if your full-time job is working for a marketing agency and you want to start a marketing agency and you've been doing sales for that marketing agency for 10 years, then the reasonable time frame could be 2 months. But if you've got no experience in the niche you're going into, then the reasonable time frame could be 18 months. It entirely depends. Lookman says, I've sent over 200 emails asking for an interview and got 0 positive replies. I think I'm switching niches. But after I've done cold calls and see if I get interviews. Dude, why do you not just cold call in the beginning, man? That's pussy shit. Why are you hiding behind the keyboard? Call them. If you have the option, I said this in week 1, man. If you have the option to cold call for interviews, you should cold call. You know, there's too many variables behind email that you don't see. There's deliverability, there's receptionists. Cold call, man. I said to. When I'm iterating on my process for cold DMs, what's the ballpark number for how many outreaches I should do in one batch before to get an appropriate sample size to tell whether the experiment has worked or not? Well, for cold DMs specifically, you don't necessarily want to go for how many outreaches that you've done, but specifically how many. You want to measure a couple of things. You want to measure your you want to measure your opening message view rate. So how many people actually, because obviously like all of these social media platforms show you when someone's seen the message. And so you need to make sure that you're measuring that, because what can happen is if you're doing outreach on Instagram, you could have the best outreach message ever. But if your view rate's really low because you go through to like the requests folder, then you're not going to get very far. So you need to be nuanced with how you measure this. So I would say sending like, in terms of measuring we call it media seen rate. So media seen rate, or MSR, we refer to this in EasyGrow, is how many people have seen your initial outreach that you've sent. In Looms, we'd call this Loom view rate, but for cold DMs, it's media seen rate. And so to measure that, you'd probably want to send like 200. And once you've got your media seen rate and you know how many people have actually seen the message, you'd really want at least 30 to 50 people to have seen the message, probably like 50 people to have seen it, in order for you to know whether or not it has any efficacy. So yeah, pretty much. How do you deal mentally with nightmare clients? I just refund them. Like, you know, if you ever get like an absolute, like, am I done for you days? If I ever had a nightmare client, I would just refund them, because it would cost me more money to deal with them in terms of mental capacity, emotional capacity, and time capacity than it would to just going. I could spend that time getting another client that would be way better. If I'm a beginner and I need the money, then you just fucking deal with them. Sahar says, from my previous inquiry, I thought that home improvement and cold calling would help me get over that fear barrier. To clarify, would I eventually expand or stick to MedSpa completely? Just stick to MedSpa completely, and also go and watch Trial by Fire in week 2. That will help you a lot with all this stuff. Barrel says, I'm scared to risk my secure income. It's understandable, man. Can I realistically work on my agency on the side while keeping my jobs? Or do I have to go all in to succeed? It's more likely to succeed if you're all in, but at the same time, man, it's less likely to succeed if you're trying to start, but you're all fucking frantic and terrified and have to, like, you're going to be all weird. So you don't have to go all in to succeed. I got my agency to 6K a month whilst working my full-time apprenticeship when I was 18. So you don't have to. There's no binary rule. It just makes it faster and obviously easier when all of your attention is there. But if you have to have that income to take care of your family or to pay your bills or, just take care of your basic responsibilities, then it's not a good idea to quit that until you feel ready to. There's no rush, unless you're like fucking 80 and dying, there's no real rush. What's the best moment to leave your parents' home? Whenever you feel ready. Hey, Charlie, you said done for you appointment setting will be extinct in a year, but the primary problem in my niche is facing appointment setting. Should I change niche and look to provide some other service? It depends how far along you are in the niche, man. If you just picked it now, or, it depends. If you're doing like B2B appointment setting, then you don't have to switch. You just have to learn how to use AI to do that. Learn the AI tools, learn the infrastructure that's going to basically replace appointment setting, and get really, really fucking good at that software and implementing that software for clients, because that software can be complex. And so basically the pivot is for you to become an expert in AI appointment setting software and building that out and setting that up. Why did you choose Royal over the Seas League for London Mastermind? I saw you in the distance and briefly spoke to a French bold guy. That was just the event that my operations manager picked, man. I don't have anything to do with those decisions, I'm afraid. Hey, Charlie, is it a good idea to do outreach in one niche in 2 different countries at the same time? Yeah, it's fine. It's an interesting question. In the mindset training, you say the only way to be wrong is by picking a side. For example, when working out, you want to eat healthy, but every now and then when you have a cheat meal, you remind yourself that you're eating healthy. Is picking the side of not succumbing to vices and eating unhealthy wrong? No, because you're still going to succumb to a vice, and that vice is work. So there's absolutely nothing wrong, in my opinion, with sacrificing your addictions and sacrificing short-term pleasure. But what you need to do is rechannel and transmutate all of that addictive energy into your work. So you still have a vice, but that vice is just your work, as opposed to gaming or drugs or anything. You're still succumbing to it. You're still heavily addicted to it. It's still something that, controls your life, but it's just more meaningful, more productive, and it gives the center way more happiness, Again, this is the thing, like with not succumbing to vices, you don't have to be so extreme. So like, for example, I don't smoke. I'm not addicted to smoking, but every now and then I will have a cigarette with my friends. So it's like, yes, in the moment I'm succumbing to something, but it's not really a vice because I don't do it consistently. In the same way that I'll eat healthy food for basically an entire month, and then on one day of the month, I might decide to go and binge out on some massive burger or something. Every now and then, I'm not succumbing to it. I'm just basically keeping myself non-binary. So yeah. Hey, Charlie, how do you structure a setup fee and rev share pitch? I was thinking 5K setup fee and 15% rev share. And would it be of the total rev of the stuff we contributed to? I mean, I don't like revenue share deals because in my opinion, like my honest opinion here, is the only time a revenue share deal makes sense is when you have direct access to the tracking of the income. So if you want to do rev share, the only way it will work, in my opinion, is for e-commerce. If you're doing an e-com marketing agency and you can see exactly how much revenue, because if you can't see, then the client has an incentive to lie, and you just don't know what you're going to get paid, and it's going to be inconsistent. If you do a rev share deal, it should only be from the revenue that you've contributed to, unless you're offering some massive holistic business solution that raises the entire revenue. But I don't like rev share deals. It's way better to get paid on earlier stages of the pipeline, like pay per appointment, pay per show, even pay per close, because those things you can at least track to some degree. Many of us are not in the US or the UK. Can we work from outside the US or the UK? Yes. Would you be, that's a really good question. Would you be willing to lose a finger and speak to Napoleon for 15 hours? Well, I'm assuming that's a great question. I'm assuming that he speaks English or can understand my my thing. If I could do it where I would chop off my pinky. If I could do it where I can talk to him for 15 hours, but split that into little 20-minute calls. So I could have like a total of like 45 calls with him to just ask him specific questions throughout my entire career, and he can speak English, then yeah, I'd probably sacrifice a pinky finger for that. Yeah, probably. That'd be an insane. You can just anytime, like once a year, you just have a quick call with Napoleon just to like talk about something specific. Then again, I don't know because he's not a businessman, but it would be, yeah, of course. I mean, that'd be sick. Do you imagine the YouTube videos you can make out of that? You'd like record them and The lead magnets. Oh dear. If you had to bet, that's a good question. If you had to bet your entire net worth on one belief you hold, which belief would you choose? The belief that if it's not in my control, it's none of my concern. That's the summary of the entire Stoic discipline. If it's not in my control, it's none of my concern. That's something I believe to be true. And like, I kind of run my entire life by that. So yeah. Also the belief that I'm going to be a billionaire, which is actually technically what I'm doing. I'm betting my entire net worth on that because everything I make is reinvested into that exact idea, which is, when you think about it, kind of fucking stupid. But hey, fuck it. Who needs to play safe? Hey, I've got plenty of time to do that if I need to. Satyam says, I'm 16 years old, trying to build my startup, but my parents think studying is more important. They say you should take a degree first and then do all of this stuff. I mean, look, man, like, you should, your parents are there to guide you, and your parents are definitely going to have your best interests at heart. And, they're there to support you, and they probably understand you better than I ever could off of the back of a single paragraph on a Q&A on a random November evening. And so there's definitely efficacy and truth behind your parents saying this. That doesn't mean they don't believe in you. It just means that they want you to be safe and that they have your best interests. At the end of the day, man, like, your parents want you to be safe, and they want a sure thing, and they see the business and they see your ambitions as a threat to your future and to your success, which is a natural parental response. That doesn't mean that they're right. It just means that they are trying to do what's best for you. If you want my advice here, this is motivation. This is something that you can take to prove to them that you can do this. And, you're not going to take a degree for another 2 years. I'm assuming you won't go to university or college until you're 18. And so you've got 2 years here to prove to them that you can make your own money and sustain yourself with an income before you'd have to go to university. And so I would basically use that information as leverage. And honestly, man, if you're not like semi-successful by then you can make that decision down the line. But yeah. What's your worst ever purchase apart from the console you chucked in the bath? Definitely the Dubai house. I spent $30,000 a month, $1,000 a day to live in a fucking house, a big box. Fucking ridiculous, man. Like, definitely that. And then also I bought like some fucking shoes for like $3,000 as well when I lived in Dubai. I really got me, man. That like sort of that lifestyle, man. It got me bad for a bit. It got me bad. No, I didn't buy the Dubai house. I rented it. To buy it would have been like $7 or $8 million. And I was rich, but I wasn't that rich. I couldn't just fucking drop 8 mil on a house. At least not comfortably. Brian says, what's the difference between the information we get from niche research and the information we'll obtain from the process of week 3? There'll definitely be an overlap, but the week 3 information is information that will help you solve a problem. The niche research information is the information that will help you define a problem. So niche research is what's the problem I'm trying to solve, and defining that and researching that problem, understanding it. And then week 3 is basically researching the problem, understanding it. So I didn't phrase that properly. So niche research is finding out what problem to solve, and week 3 is understanding out how to solve it and building a methodology. The best dialing softwares, I just use Alaware. a good question from Laura here. What kind of profit margin should we be aiming at, and what are realistic during each stage of growth? If it's industry dependent, then for the tech/AI automation space, what profit margin do you see during your growth? Yeah, so I mean, look, 10K a month, your profit margin should honestly be like 80%, 90%. And the reason behind that is because you should literally be doing everything yourself. 50K a month, your margin should probably be 60%, 70%, 60%, 60% at least. 50K a month, you should be making at least like 30K a month profit, for like 35K a month profit. And at 100K a month, you wouldn't want to do that with an agency. You'd want to do that with an info business. And if you're making 100K a month with info, then you should be at least like 70% profit margin. Because 100K a month info is just you and a couple of appointment setters and you doing all the sales calls and selling a high ticket course with little to no infrastructure to deliver. And so your margins, ironically, your margins at 100K a month for info will be very similar to your margins at 10K a month with an agency. Obviously, just the scale is different. And that's why info is so good. Ando says, how do I chuck money at you? You can just buy eZero, mate, if you want. I don't really mind, though. I'm getting hot. I'll turn the air conditioning on in a minute, I think. Let's go and turn the AC on. The one in here is not working, so I've got to go and do it in the other room. Hang on, guys. There we go. That's better. Why is info the end goal? Info is not the end goal necessarily, man. It's just a stepping stone. Like in an info business is basically more profitable and more scalable than an agency, typically. And it's a way better way for you to make profit, do less work. You don't have to hire. But the problem with scaling an agency is if you want to scale an agency, eventually what happens is you reach your maximum capacity for handling clients. And because of that, you then have to start hiring people to do skilled delivery for you. And the problem with that is pretty self-evident. It's that those people cost a lot of money. And so what ends up happening is you basically become like a talent agency, and where you're basically just selling people and connecting them with someone who's talented. And that just eats into your margin. And it's honestly, people get worse results because they're not working with you, who's the actual expert that knows exactly how to do it better than other people. And so by taking the information that you have on how to deliver that result and putting it into a program, you're going to get way better results because the information is purer and more directly from you, who's the actual expert, than just someone you're paying like a 20% fee. At the end of the day, you're going to care way more about the results. And so, yes. Someone said turn off the top fans chat feature, but I don't even know what that is or how to do that, man. So, sorry. How do you say no to things that don't matter? Well, you basically use your voice box to utter the word no. I'm fucking with you, man. You kind of, the way to do this is to say no to things before people ask you. And so what that basically means is make a decision in your head of what you're going to say no to and what you're not going to do, so that when someone asks you to do it, you don't have to make the decision on the spot. You've already made the decision. So like in my grind days, I'd be like, oh, I'm not going to do clubbing. I'm not going to play video games, whatever the fuck. And I would literally just, anytime someone could ask me, do you want to do this? And I'm like, no, because I'd already made the decision. Like I'd already locked off the behavior in my head. So I didn't necessarily have to ask anything. So I've already finished week 1 and watched the offer video. Should I move on to week 2 or should I build my offer first? Well, you can't really build your offer until you know the problem. So you should do week 2 whilst also trying to act out the advice from week 1 on how to find the problem. And then once you have a clear problem, then you can create an offer around it. So do you play video games? No, I don't. Honestly, guys, that's like one of the most destructive things you can do to like destroy your business is play video games. Like it's tough. Is it better to hire a contractor at the beginning or later? You only hire a contractor to deliver results once you have overachieved your capacity. So once you can't take on any more clients, then you hire a contractor. But at that point, it makes sense to just build an info business, in my opinion. You're worried about being called a copycat. I wouldn't worry about that, man. People will find out and people will call you a copycat, but most of the market won't give a fuck because it's just another way. You've got to realize, man, like no one's going to care if you've necessarily copied other people's stuff. People will call you a copycat and people will judge you for it, but a large portion of the market just won't give a single flying fuck. They just won't. They'll just see it as another opportunity to get their result delivered by someone else for cheaper or in a slightly different way. And so they won't care. Josh Dweck says, who's your favorite client? Definitely wouldn't be Josh Dweck. I love it when mastermind clients hop in here and start fucking around with my live stream. Josh, I don't have a favorite client, mate. You're all wonderful in my eyes, mate. But if I had to pick, it would probably be, I don't know, Normia. Because he technically was a client. So I can get out of that. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, look, that's an hour. I'm going to crack on. I got some more stuff to do this afternoon. So I know that we've only gone through a few questions today, but I am a busy man and have many things to do. So I will leave you all to it. I hope you've derived some value from today's live stream. And I look forward to seeing you all back here on Thursday. Love you all very much. Wish you all the best. Get back to work, guys. Take care. See you soon. All right. See you guys. Take care.